Welcome to episode 2 of Outrage Culture, the show where we delve into news, politics, and culture and answer the very important question, what are we outraged about today? Well, let's start off with the current ongoing information war surrounding the shooting of Renee Good, the woman who was shot by an ICE agent in Minnesota after attempting to run him over with her vehicle. Now, if you don't agree with this framing, I would implore you to stay for the facts, because what the current media and left wing is doing by downplaying what happened in this situation is setting up many more Americans for extremely dangerous or even life-threatening situations. We'll be discussing that and how at this point the Trump admin absolutely cannot be soft on crime any longer. Because the left wing has been doing this for months at this point, and you can't impede federal officials. You cannot attempt to run over somebody with your vehicle. And for months, the left has been mobilizing to stalk, harass, and impede ICE. And not only has this recent shooting emboldened them, but it's taken the severity of where we are as a country up to another level. As the left chants, save a life, kill an ICE, and calls for people to start bringing their guns to confront ICE, it's a very serious situation that we're in as a country, and we're going to be getting into it in this episode. Welcome back to another episode, my friends. We are going to be today debunking the reality of, or not debunking the reality, highlighting the reality and debunking the lies surrounding the shooting of Renee Good, because at this point, anybody who is lying about this situation is trying to get people killed. And it is a very dangerous point that we are currently at as a country when you have a huge swath of the left wing and a huge swath of the media that is completely recategorizing what happened during this situation. We're going to be getting into all of that today, and I found kind of the perfect tweet to open up the show with. This comes from Robbie Starbuck, who says, in less than 1 year, Democrats got a subset of left-wing women to support or defend Tren de Aragua, Somali fraud, MS-13 communism, running over law enforcement, Antifa, Maduro, Hamas, Sharia law, assassinations, and sex changes for kids. Evil but impressive psychological operation. And that is where we are currently at, my friends, as a country regarding the left versus right political factions. Now, before we get into all of the videos, before we get into all of the news, because I'm sure many of you have already seen the video of Renee Good, of what happened the other day. This has been circulating for the last 2 days at this point. I believe this happened on January 7th. So we all saw this footage circulating online. And of course, this came out of Minneapolis, the epicenter of insanity in this country for some reason. Let's not forget that this is George Floyd capital as well. So Minneapolis and Minnesota just always, for some reason, popping off in the worst way possible. Now, we all saw this footage going absolutely viral over the last couple of days, and it has completely sparked a conversation. And I am realizing that in the United States of America, and it's always been this way, but specifically with this narrative, it's very much pick your own reality. On this show, the reality that we are going to choose is the truth, because again, anybody highlighting this as Renee Good, a mother, innocently shot while sitting in her car, is simply trying to get more people killed, and will get more people killed because more will continue to get radicalized against ICE and will want to mobilize against them in an attempt to stop what they think is the modern day Gestapo. So we all saw this footage go viral, and immediately the narrative kind of split, right? You had the people who were watching this video and said, okay, this ICE agent was clearly in the right to shoot at this woman because it seems that she accelerated her vehicle straight at him. And we have more footage that came out today that pretty much corroborated and reaffirmed all of those claims. Now, immediately, the left wing, let's start off with NPR, because we had a couple of listeners who were stating exactly how they were framing this. NPR just now. There's controversy in Minnesota after an ICE agent shot and killed a woman while she was sitting in her car. Okay, so that's how NPR decided to frame this. And then you have the average American who's been commenting on this as well. This comes from Libertarian Mama, who says, as a female driver who sometimes panics on the road when I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do in confusing circumstances, I'm realizing that I'd probably get shot by officers. And a lot of you would probably say it was justified. Okay, so we have women on the timeline saying that they do not know how to drive, and also that in their minds, simply being in their vehicles would equate to them being shot by the police or by ICE agents. All right, let's continue. Now, this one is particularly egregious. This is Crystal Ball. She is the co-host of Breaking Points. Now, I used to listen to Breaking Points because I'm a really big fan of Sagar and Genti. I think that he's great, and I really like his takes. Crystal Ball is his co-host. Now, they have millions of listeners, and she's a very smart woman. So she knows what she's doing, and she knows that she's lying about this situation. She has millions of listeners, and she is the perfect example of why nobody trusts the left-wing media. She is the perfect example of why the mainstream media lost so much credibility, lost their ratings, lost their viewership, because they were doing BS just like this. Okay, so Crystal says they are trying to paint a mom who just dropped off her kid at school as a hardened criminal terrorist who's part of some scary terror network. Insane and straight from NSP M7. Now, she is quote tweeting Caroline Leavitt, who says that the White House says fatal Minneapolis ICE shooting occurred as a result of a larger, sinister left-wing movement that has spread across our country, which absolutely, and a lot of people might not have the stomach for that, or maybe the understanding of how far the left-wing has gone in this country. But what Caroline is saying is true. And as somebody who has reported on these left-wing networks for years, I have seen it for myself on the ground. So when Crystal Ball goes up in front of her entire audience and tries to play dumb and say, oh, this was just an innocent mom, she was trying to get away. And this isn't even the worst part of it. She kind of like triples down on her show. And she goes, she was trying to get away. She wasn't trying to hurt anyone. She was clearly trying to back up and leave the situation, which as we saw in the new footage that just came out, is the furthest thing from the truth as possible. Now, what did the new footage show us? Let's go ahead and actually watch it for ourselves so you guys can see. And I've kind of cut it up. It's a very long clip. It's about a minute long. And you see the entire interaction of Renee Good's wife interacting with these ICE officials. Renee clearly not afraid of these ICE agents, clearly not confused, clearly not just in the middle of a bad situation. And oh no, I'm hearing conflicting orders. I don't know what to do. This clip debunks all of it. I cut it into a 15-second clip, however, so you can see the end of this, because again, the entirety of this narrative stems on the fact that ICE just opened fire on an innocent mom who was confused. Here's the reality of that situation.
You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Oh!
Okay, so I slowed this down at the end so you could actually see Renee put her hands on the steering wheel and turn the steering wheel toward the ICE agent that she was trying to hit. She's also accelerating her vehicle. She is also she does hit the ICE agent, as we are seeing in this footage. And it's been kind of crazy too, because the left wing pretty much abandoned X, right? They all went to blue sky. And then on X, you kind of have a lot of more of the right wing perspective on things, if you will. I like to see both perspectives because modern day America is very much choose your own reality. And on Crystal Ball's timeline, on her feed, what is being pushed is this narrative that, again, Renee Good was this confused, innocent mother who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah, maybe she was trying to push back against ICE to help her immigrant neighbors, but she really wasn't doing anything wrong. And she was definitely not trying to, run into and kill an ICE official, even though she's on camera accelerating her vehicle toward him. Now, these were the narratives that were circulating online. Matt Van Swol wrote them out very well. He said 5 left-wing narratives instantly crumble with the body camera footage. Number 1, that Renee was terrified for her life. She was absolutely not, and was smiling and taunting the officers with zero fear. The officer was not hit. He was clearly hit hard, as you guys all saw at the end of that video. That man goes, like, he's clearly gets hit by the vehicle. I will not try to exaggerate this situation because, again, tragic what happened. Like, I will say this, and I tweeted this initially, that I don't have any sympathy for Renee Good because she made the decision that got herself killed. and actions have consequences. Now, I am not celebrating the death of Renee Good because I don't celebrate when any human life is taken. But what I am saying is I don't have sympathy and I'm not sympathetic to somebody who put themselves in this situation. She was a mother. People keep trying to say this. Okay, well, why did she put protecting illegal immigrants, which, by the way, are the worst of the worst that ICE is trying to get off the street? Go look at the rap sheet of some of these people. It includes murder, rape, assault, robbery, drug trafficking, domestic violence, abuse. That's who ICE is trying to get off the street. Why did this mother prioritize putting criminals above her children? Because that's what she did. So I don't have any sympathy for it. And again, anybody lying about this situation is okay with fomenting more violence and putting more Americans in a situation to get killed. And that in itself is horrific, because that's what's going to continue to happen as leftists become more and more radicalized in thinking that this is happening, that ICE is simply going up to innocent mothers sitting in their vehicles and shooting them. That's not what's happening. And this video clearly shows that. Another narrative was that Renee didn't know who the officers were. However, based on this footage, she knew exactly who they were and exactly what she was doing. Another narrative was that Renee was peacefully trying to leave the scene. Clearly not. She slammed on the accelerator directly into the officer, and she had nearly a full minute to leave prior to this situation. Number 5, that Renee wasn't involved in any ICE-related activities, which is instantly proven false because her partner in the video clearly states that they were going to harass ICE later. So this is Matt Van Swole's kind of analysis of this situation. But like I said, too, we'll be getting into everything else that led up to this, because I do think it's important to archive these situations because the internet moves fast. The narrative moves fast. So what actually happened and what was actually going on? Another narrative that was highlighted to be debunked in this new footage is that Renee was given conflicting commands. The left wing right now and the media trying to say that ICE was telling her to stop, go, stay, don't move, actually go and leave. In the video, you can clearly hear this ICE agent telling her to get out of the vehicle. And her partner is yelling, drive. And then she starts moving her vehicle again. In multiple angles of this, you can kind of see those ICE agents that were in front of the vehicle. Let me play you this clip right here, which is the slowed down version from the first clip that was going viral, in which you can clearly see an ICE agent in front of her vehicle. Now, we won't spend the entirety of this show kind of debunking this, because I know a lot of you guys are already aware, already seeing this. But like I said, we're kind of utilizing this as an archive to understand how Renee Good got herself in this situation and how dangerous it is that anybody is lying about what was going on during this situation. Because let's be clear, we don't live in a country in which ICE agents are rounding up Americans and illegally deporting Americans and kidnapping people on the street. And it is simply law-abiding Americans who are having to go and stand up for themselves and stand up for their communities. An illegal immigrant who should not be in the United States of America is not a part of the community. I am sorry, they're not. They do not belong here in the United States, and they need to go home. The American people overwhelmingly voted Donald Trump and co. into office to enact these mass deportations because the United States of America has been extremely chaotic for the past 4 years. To be quite honest with you, it's been chaotic for decades as a direct result of our immigration policy, or lack thereof. But the past 4 years was really an acceleration of all of it. You had Tren de Aragua members in New York that were shooting at police officers and taking over entire areas. You had TDA members in Aurora, Colorado, taking over entire apartment complexes. You had Laken Riley, who couldn't even go on a run at her university in Georgia without being killed by an illegal immigrant who, by the way, was given a free plane ticket from the state of New York, from the city of New York, to fly from New York to Georgia, where he committed that crime. That's what the last 4 years were like. You had illegals on the street that not only could not even communicate with people when they run into you, can't read road signs, but are also driving 18-wheelers and killing Americans on the roads as well. We've got so many different angles of this issue. And this is why Americans voted for mass deportations. And now that the Trump administration is trying to enact that, not only have they run into the full force of activist judges trying to put a stop to this, but they're now also running into these professional agitators that are harassing, mobilizing, stalking, and impeding ICE officers. And this has been happening for months. And it needs to end. And the Trump administration needs to finally crack down the hammer. And look, I don't love the concept of the government coming in and having to put military on US streets. But at this point, the left wing is so radicalized that when the American people, because keep in mind, everything the admin is doing is on behalf of us who voted them into office. When the American people voted for something and you have you have millions of crazed left wingers actively trying to stop that being ICE agents removing criminal illegal aliens from the street, we need to take drastic measures. And I was thinking about this too, and everything that the right does, everything we say, everything that we think, everything that we feel, right? Because the left wing loves to categorize us as radicalized, is an equal and opposite reaction to the left wing. The left wing's violence, the left wing's increasing rhetoric and calling us Nazis for the last decade, the left wing cracking down on people and taking away our rights and throwing us in jail with no due process, the left wing weaponizing the FBI and the DOJ under Joe Biden and throwing people in jail and ruining their lives. Everything out of the right wing is an equal and opposite reaction to the left. And again, mass deportations, which are legal, are one of those reactions. And the left wing will continue to foment violence until they are forced to stop. And like I said, this show isn't even right versus left. It's just basic law and order and common sense versus an entire radicalized and mobilized class of people who will give up their lives to defend criminals. This is what Renee Good was doing prior to being shot, by the way.
They clearly wanted her out of there because she was the main car leading the protest, is my understanding. I talked to another guy who was driving behind her, but she was very successful in blocking traffic. She was doing what she was set out to do, and so they wanted to get her the hell out of there. Yeah.
So it looked like she was impeding ICE vehicles.
Definitely, yeah. Okay. That was her goal.
That was her goal, to impede ICE vehicles. And by the way, just so we can archive this for, future use, perhaps, if somebody says, oh, this poor innocent mom was sitting in her car and an ICE agent walked up to her driver window and just started shooting her in the face. That's absolutely not what happened. Again, we have multiple videos and multiple angles of Renee Good hitting this ICE officer. And also, here is the first gunshot that went through the front window, the windshield, which would not have been possible unless this ICE agent was not in front of her vehicle. So there's that for you guys there, because I think it's important for us to highlight that. And again, after the left wing taking hold of this narrative and trying to pretend that Renee Good was an innocent and meek little mom, it's just in the wrong place at the wrong time, it comes out that she's actually an ICE Watch warrior who trained to resist the feds before the shooting. Now, I've gone to these trainings because they happen in New York quite frequently. There are ICE out of New York groups. There are, I can't remember the exact name of the one, but they do these organized meetings every weekend where they bring in like 100 people and they all mobilize together. They get in signal group chats based on their neighborhood, so that way they can quickly text each other and start swarming and mobbing ICE as soon as they see ICE agents anywhere. And the left wing is so radicalized that they think that this is just normal behavior and okay behavior. And I was thinking about this too, my friends. And let's put this situation into a different, let's look at this situation from a different viewpoint, right? Let's say that you have a cop that's pulling over somebody who's speeding. And then you have other Americans who start stalking that officer, impeding what he's doing, blocking his vehicle, harassing him, trying to attack him, chanting that they're going to kill him. Look at this situation from that viewpoint, or from any other situation. You would think that that's crazy. Like anybody would know with basic common sense not to run up on a cop who's pulling somebody over and go start screaming at them and impeding them. That's like the quickest way to put yourself in a dangerous situation. But for some reason, when it comes to ICE, people think that this is how you act. I don't know. They're absolutely insane. And the worst part about the Ice Watch Warrior thing is that apparently Good, who moved to the city last year, the city being Minneapolis, linked up with anti-ICE activists through her 6-year-old son's woke charter school, which boasts that it puts social justice first and prioritizes involving kids in political and social activism. And then another mom who knew Renee, said she was a warrior and she died doing what is right. This is a mother whose child attends the same school. Here is the couple that put their lives on the line to defend illegals instead of, being responsible parents and making sure that their kids were raised in a 2-parent household. Yeah, I don't know about that one, but there you guys go. This woman joined an anti-ICE watch group that she found in her son's school. That in itself is very interesting. Now, regarding this ICE agent as well, apparently this man was previously involved in a situation in which he got dragged by a vehicle. The agent that shot Renee Good yesterday as she drove toward him had been dragged by a car over 300 feet just 6 months ago by a man who had been charged with sex crimes against a child, this man being an illegal immigrant, by the way. Here is the photo of him from the hospital. He had to get, I believe, 33 stitches after this. 30 stitches. So just some insight into why this man reacted as quickly as he did, because he was already dragged by a vehicle. And that was another one of the takes that I had, is that everyone keeps highlighting how Renee Good was this mom, and it's very sad that she died, which it is sad that she died. Like I said, all human life loss is sad. But what about this ICE agent? What about his family? What about his wife? What about his kids? He had to make the quick decision on whether or not he was going to live or be murdered, and he chose to live. ICE agent who opened fire on Renee Good was dragged and hospitalized by an illegal immigrant driver last year. The attack on the officer, identified in court documents as Jonathan Ross, happened June 17th in Minnesota, exactly a month after Minnesota Governor Tim Walz labeled ICE agents the modern-day Gestapo. Apparently, this ICE officer's arm was trapped inside the vehicle during a traffic stop, and he was drugged 100 yards. And here is the illegal that was tied to child sex crimes that did that. So that's the situation this man was in prior that led to him most likely making that very quick decision. And again, Renee Good clearly tried to run him over with her vehicle. And the responses to this have been, this kind of perfectly encapsulates modern day America and left-wing thinking. Wow, Trump really is a dictator. You really can't run over cops like you used to. That is the left wing. And I even made my own joke tweet about this, where on Blue Sky, it was like, you legally have to let the left wing run you over. How dare you? You can't just shoot people who are trying to murder you with their vehicle. What's wrong with you, ICE? That is the left wing in the modern day. And also, on top of this happening, and you know how they say that there are weeks where decades happen? That was this week. You had the anniversary of January 6th. You had the anniversary of the Pacific Palisades fire. You had the shooting of Renee Good. And then on top of all of that, you had another ICE-related shooting in Portland. Okay? Per Yahoo News, let's see how Yahoo categorized this. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agents confronted and shot a man and a woman Thursday afternoon in a medical clinic parking lot. The man was wounded in the arm and the women in the chest. They are believed to be a married couple. Police said they didn't know their conditions. Oh my gosh. So ICE is just opening fire on everybody in America. They saw this married couple in the parking lot of a medical clinic, and they just opened fire. ICE is unhinged. What's going on? Oh, okay. DHS is providing further insight. Let's read. The 2 criminal illegal aliens who attacked Border Patrol in Portland are gang members, are a gang member and his prostitute, not an innocent married couple. Okay, some context there. The driver of the vehicle, Luis David Nico Moncada, is a criminal illegal alien from Venezuela and suspected Tren de Aragua gang member. He illegally entered the U.S. in 2022 and was released into the country by the Biden admin. And since then has been arrested for a DUI and unauthorized use of a vehicle and had a final order of removal. And then let's go ahead and look at the wife or the prostitute. Yeah, the passenger. I'm not even going to try to read that Harry Potter-ass name. Another criminal illegal alien from Venezuela associated with TDA, illegally entered in 2023, was released into the country by Biden and has played an active role in Tren de Aragua prostitution rings. Was also involved in a prior shooting in Portland. Okay, but Yahoo says that this was just an innocent married couple who was sitting in a parking lot of a hospital. Okay, so that's the angling on that. And again, the left wing, instead of being rational or normal people, because like I said, this situation should not be left versus right. And if Democrats or the left wing actually cared about their constituents, they would immediately say, you can't run over ICE agents. Stop trying to impede these federal officials. And at a bare minimum, like if you were a Democrat, right, and you truly thought that what ICE was doing was illegal, then you should try to protect your constituents and say, hey, we will try to go through all the legal processes to do what we can to stop this. But guess what? Everything that's happening is legal, one. And two, I truly feel that the Democratic Party and left-wingers are so sinister that they do want people to be killed, because this is the rhetoric they're putting out, okay? This is from Daniel Goldman, who is a Democrat congressman. He said, we're done with your gaslighting. And this is in response to Stephen Miller, who said that what happened the other day with Renee Good trying to run over an ICE agent was domestic terrorism. He said, we're done with your gaslighting. Even if the officer were run over, it's not domestic terrorism. Okay. So that's the left-wing messaging now. You can run over ICE agents. It's not domestic terrorism. Even if you were on video trying to murder somebody in cold blood and you're smiling while you do it and you're accelerating forward and the entire nation saw it, don't worry. We are still going to have your back and we are still going to make sure that nothing happens to you. We will control the narrative and we will do everything that we can to make sure that ICE agents are further demonized. Okay. And you also have the left wing that is now going out in the street. And this has been the response to the shooting that happened. This isn't new either, by the way. The left wing, very radical, will continue to be radical. And there are simple solutions to get this under control, but for some reason they have not been enacted yet. But this was the left wing and anti-ICE activists in New York just last night. Okay, so that was anti-ICE protesters in New York chanting, Kristi Noem will hang and save a life, kill an ICE. All right. So you have the congressman on the Democratic Party side saying that even if you run over an ICE agent, it's not domestic terrorism. You have the anti-ICE activists in the street chanting that Kristi Noem will hang and to kill ICE agents. And then you have the average anti-ICE mobilizer, okay, activist who's a part of these Signal group chats and can be activated very quickly, doing this every single day. This is what ICE is dealing with every single day as they are trying to enact these mass deportations, which again, just for anybody here who might be new, impeding a federal official is a felony, okay? It's a felony. Whether or not you think it should be a felony, it's a felony. And for months, the left wing has gotten away with firebombing, attacking, harassing, stalking, and impeding ICE agents across the nation. This is a little snippet of what they've been dealing with every single day.
Hey, back up.
I'm far enough away. I'm not influencing anything.
Do you live on this street?
I don't. No.
Okay, I need you to get in your...
No, I won't.
Ma'am, I need you to leave.
It's my right to be here.
You need to back up out of the way.
I will
Right,
not.
this is one of our cars as well. You were too close right now. You were
it's okay.
interfering.
I'm right here.
Federal
You're going to
investigation.
get out of my face.
You need
I'm
to
a
back
public
up over
citizen.
here.
No, I won't. Tell me
You need
why
to
I'm
back up
far
this
enough
way.
away from your
You need to
investigation.
back-
20 feet, right?
See that white car?
We'll get a tow
I
truck
have a
as well.
6-year-old right here. I have a 6-year-old right here in my car.
Child in the car?
Ooh,
Yeah,
child
I sure
endangerment.
did. Yes,
Yeah.
child endangerment.
Get your child off of the scene. This is an active police scene.
Okay, so that's the average liberal. They will even bring their child to active crime scenes or active arrest scenes because they do not care about their well-being. They don't care about their children's well-being. They don't care about their dog's well-being. They are going to risk it all for these illegal immigrants. And again, this is one example. This has been happening for a long time. Here's another example of what ICE is dealing with every single day.
If I continually see you following us, interfering with us, honking your horn, blocking our cars, you have a very high probability of making a really bad decision and being arrested today, okay?
I think I'm making exactly
I'm not.
the right decision.
Oh, then why are you giving her a warning?
I'm giving her a warning to not interfere with what we're doing, to not make a bad decision today and ruin your life.
Whoa, bad
Okay,
decisions.
thank
That's
you.
funny coming from you.
Okay, alrighty. Thank you. Have a good day.
I hope you have a terrible day.
Okay, thank you.
So in this clip, it goes on for a full minute, but these people continue following these agents. They're blowing whistles at them. They're stalking them. They're impeding them. Again, what happens in New York and the reason why mass deportations have not happened in New York is because oftentimes a huge mob will form and ISIS just ran out of the area, which is why I have continually stated, okay? I have continually stated that the president needs to invoke the Insurrection Act because this isn't a joke anymore. The left wing is violent. They can clearly mobilize very quickly, and they are willing to risk their lives in an attempt to murder ICE agents to get their way. This isn't a joke anymore, and the admin needs to stop messing around because the left wing will not stop until we force them to. And the media and every single left wing politician drumming up this already radicalized base to more action is only going to get more people killed. So unless we want to see more Americans getting killed, Donald Trump needs to invoke the Insurrection Act. It's not a joke anymore. Here is the new mayor of Seattle further guiding her constituents, who she is responsible for leading and keeping safe. Here she is guiding them to join ICE mobilization alerts.
Seattle is a welcoming city. We already have laws in place that forbid our local police from aiding ICE in most instances. The police will adhere to these laws. That's an important step. But it's also true that we have limited authority with regard to the actions of federal agencies. And I know that our existing laws are not enough to keep people safe. So I'm working with Police Chief Barnes, City Attorney Evans, immigrant rights groups, and local leaders to identify every possible legal argument, public resource, and creative tool we can use to keep the people of Seattle safe. This will take all of us. I urge you to sign up for the Washington for All ICE mobilization alerts. And don't stop there.
So there you guys go. By telling people to sign up for these alerts, she's essentially saying, hey, if you see ICE in your neighborhood and you get one of these alerts, come out, mob them, harass them, stop them. The left wing needs to be stopped, and law and order needs to be swiftly put in place across the United States of America. Because it's not only these radicalized people who are putting themselves in harm's way by confronting and trying to kill federal agents, but they're also making a problem for regular law-abiding American citizens, because oftentimes they are shutting down the road. Renee Good herself was the lead vehicle shutting down traffic, blocking ICE officials, using her vehicle to make an issue and to impede. And this is something that happens all across the nation. I see it in New York all the time. I've seen it in Austin. I've seen it in California, in Chicago. Take your pick. I've seen it in any city where there's been mass protests. Protesters are allowed to take over the entire street and shut it down. Safety concern for everybody involved, because these protesters are going to F around and find out one day with the wrong driver, and they are going to get themselves killed. So this is a safety issue for everybody at this point. And unless if the Trump administration wants to see more Americans killed, then don't invoke the Insurrection Act. But as our leader, it's your responsibility to keep people safe, and allowing the radical left to take over our cities continually and attack federal agents is only going to result in more death. By the way, this is what life is like for your average everyday American who's simply trying to drive on their city streets.
Disrupting traffic, idiots. You can't do that. That's against the law.
wilding. I'm about to start throwing fists at you, bro. I'm not gonna run you over. Get away from my car, bro.
So there is this man getting out of his vehicle to push these protesters out of the way. I'm not sure if this itself is an ICE protest, but what I wanted to highlight with this clip is how this is a very common and regular occurrence every single week across the United States of America, because the left wing has become so emboldened that they think that they can do whatever the hell they want with no consequence. And this is what the American people have been asking for: consequences to people's actions. It's what we've been begging the DOJ for: consequences to the illegal actions of high-level politicians, of these protesters, of the people funding them. Now, Columbia Journalism Review, I appreciate it. They wrote a profile piece on me, and they titled it "The Law and Order Influencer." And absolutely, I love that title, and I'll take it. Go read the piece. It's about how I try to utilize my reporting to enact positive change, like the Canal Street raid that happened last year. The law and order influencer. That's what I want to be. And I hope, if anything, we can all continue to pressure the Trump admin into becoming a law and order administration. And I know they're trying to be, and there have been hiccups and bumps in the road. But to be quite honest with you, Donald Trump can invoke the Insurrection Act today to end all of the nonsense that's going on, and for some reason, he has not. I interviewed with Jack Posobiec, who laid out why this is necessary at this point and what it entails. Listen to this quick interview. For our viewers at home, can you talk to us about what the Insurrection Act is, and also your view on where illegal immigration or mass deportation stands right now?
When it comes to the Insurrection Act, that's where things get really fun. Because with the Insurrection Act, should the president invoke it, which he has not up until this point, then you can send the military, and not just National Guard, but even active duty military into an area to put down a violent insurrection. So it is an extreme act. However, it's only extreme in the sense that it's rare. It's a rare occurrence. The president has full authority to do this, to put down insurrections. And yes, if you are agitating and using violence to stop the federal government for enforcing its duly appointed actions, like deporting violent criminals, deporting illegals, deporting people who are here for fraud, you're carrying out federal law enforcement action. This is something that a lot of these like liberal mayors and governors forget, is that, yes, just because you're in Los Angeles or you're in California, that doesn't mean that you're not in the United States. Donald Trump is the president of California. He's the president of Los Angeles. Right. He's the president of Philadelphia and New York and all these places. And in that instance, I was actually in the room when Zohran Mamdani and President Trump had their first meeting. Mm-hmm. And I had some words with Mr. Mamdani about all this. And he's the president of the entire United States. Just because you're in a blue state or a blue city, that doesn't change that. Federal law has supremacy in the Constitution under the Supremacy Clause. So, should President Trump allow for the invoking and call for the invoking of the Insurrection Act in order to help ICE punch through these protesters and be able to deport these violent criminals, he would be well within his rights as the president, because that's why we have the Insurrection Act.
So there was Jack Posobiec on the Insurrection Act, and like I said, I honestly think that just drastic times call for drastic measures. And the left wing is so out of control right now that this is what needs to be done to enact basic law and order. Because ICE needs to be allowed to mass deport the illegal aliens like we voted for them to do, without Americans putting themselves in the way of it and getting themselves killed doing this. Another solution, Charlie Kirk had tweeted this. He tweeted this last year in July. It's time to start arresting Democrat mayors who are obstructing ICE from doing their work. Now, Mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, as soon as this shooting happened, as he loves to do, politicized this entire issue and said, ICE, get the F out of Minneapolis, get out of Minnesota. And then Tim Walz is now basically doubling down and threatening to utilize National Guard against the feds. Like Jack said, Trump is the president over the entire country. And yes, you have individual states' rights, but when you are completely circumventing federal immigration law and you're breaking the law and you're allowing billions of dollars in fraud to happen in your state, why are you still up on a podium continuing to foment more violence and rile up your constituents, one of which already died, very unfortunately? Many are asking why the DOJ hasn't thrown Tim Walz in jail yet. But why is it that these Democratic mayors and governors have not been arrested? Not even Democratic, but just if you are a sanctuary city mayor or governor, you're actively circumventing federal immigration law. Why is that allowed? Why are we still doing this? I'm genuinely baffled by it because by not acting, and when I say we, I mean the Trump administration, by not cracking down on criminal activity, they only send the message that this type of activity is okay and that you can continue doing it. And that as long as you are in a high enough position in American politics that you can break the law and get away with it. Essentially, what we're dealing with the left wing is like a stubborn child, right? Let's say you have a 4-year-old kid and they slap you in the face. And then you just say, no, don't do that. And then they slap you in the face again. And you say, no, don't do that. That is the left wing to the Trump administration right now. They keep slapping the admin in the face, knowing that there's going to be no real substantial consequence, knowing the DOJ isn't going to come crack down, knowing that the Insurrection Act is not going to be invoked. And they continue to slap the admin in the face, knowing there will be no consequence. And because this has been allowed to happen for so long, there was real consequence yesterday via Renee Good. That is the reality of what trying to get in the way of a federal official that's armed and trying to run them over looks like. So don't do that. To every single American who thinks they're fighting this righteous and just cause, illegal immigrants point blank broke the law and they have to go home. That's it. This should not be controversial. This should not be something that people are dying over. And like I said, to give you guys an example of how out of hand this all is, a press release came out from the DHS, and this was in December, and I was floored by it. I was baffled by it, okay? Because in New York alone, you have 7,000 illegals that were already tied to horrific crimes such as, again, domestic violence, drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, abuse of a child, sexual abuse of a child, rape, murder in some cases. They're illegal immigrants that are already tied to these crimes. And because New York is a sanctuary city and they refuse to work directly with ICE, ICE basically will be like, hey, we see you have this illegal. Please hand them over to us so we can deport them. And New York, because they're a sanctuary city, says no. And they re-release them back out onto the street. They've done this with 7,000 illegals already. There's another 7,000. It might even be 11. I can't remember off the top of my head. 11,000 that currently have a ICE retainer on them that New York is just not going to honor. Same thing in Illinois. The numbers are not as high in Illinois, but I believe they did release, I want to say it was like 11 or 1,200 criminals tied to these horrific crimes. Now, regarding the DOJ and the lack of inaction that we have seen, we know that Antifa has been at the forefront of what people have wanted to see action on. The left wing loves to pretend that Antifa doesn't exist and that they're really not a terrorist network that we need to worry about. Well, per Andy No, an Antifa-linked extremist anarchist blog claims it's released the personal information of around 14,000 DHS associates on the dark web. Now, Andy has been researching Antifa for almost a decade at this point. He's been attacked by them personally. He has highlighted how this is an international organization that has funding, that has leaders, that is very coordinated, and that is very organized. And the DOJ told us they were going to completely dismantle them, and I hope we do see that. But as of now, there have been no raids on Antifa members. We have seen no arrests of the people who have been tied to funding them, no extradition of the, let's say, the creator of Rose City Antifa in Portland, one of the most violent chapters of Antifa. The founders fled to, I want to say it was Sweden. They're still living their life. And now we're seeing reports like this. 14,000 DHS associates had their information leaked on the dark web. And based off of what we have seen from the left wing, you guys know that these people aren't going to be safe. You know that the left wing, as soon as they had the information or have the information of an ICE agent, will do everything in their power to track that person down and try to ruin their life. That's what we're dealing with in the modern day. Now, let's go through a quick news blitz here about what the admin is doing, because quite a bit has come out this week regarding updates on the Trump admin. Starting off with the fact that Trump says that the U.S. is going to start hitting land targeting cartels running Mexico. President Trump told Fox News host Sean Hannity on Thursday that the U.S. is going to start now hitting land in its fight against drug cartels, framing the move as a response to what he claimed is cartel control of Mexico and a U.S. death toll in the 250,000 to 300,000 range every single year. Very interesting to me. To be quite honest with you, I am very anti-war, but I always said, I was like, look, if there is one country that is a legitimate and direct threat to the United States of America, it's Mexico. It is the Mexican president who continues to undermine our country and has continued to allow illegals to come into the United States of America, continues to allow the cartel to flood fentanyl through our border. Like, look, if there's anybody that we should be fighting, it's Mexico. Obviously, I don't want us fighting anybody. I would love all resources directed here at home. Close the border. Isolation. Let's just focus on the United States here for a bit. But interesting move on that front. So that's coming out of the admin. What else do we got? Okay, we have Maduro, who we black bagged. I believe this happened, last weekend, early this week. Funny thing about this, and comedic relief here, apparently the Nike sweatsuit that Maduro was arrested in or captured in was sold out in almost every single size after this photo came out. Now, my response to this is that incredible. Now that we've liberated Venezuela, every single Venezuelan needs to go back home. And also, I was watching as so many Venezuelans cried tears of joy because Maduro and his regime have been toppled. The country has been freed. The people are so excited about it. I'm happy for them. And I would love more than anything to see Americans crying tears of joy, because the criminal politicians who have been looting from us, robbing us, targeting us via the FBI and the DOJ, I would love to see Americans crying from happiness and joy because those people got arrested. I would love to see that same energy directed here in the United States of America. But this Nike fleece outfit completely sold out after the Maduro capture. This was an interesting take from Vince Dow. Trump genuinely managed to break the anti-American axis in a single year. This coalition was destined to be America's greatest geopolitical threat in the 21st century, and Trump basically dissolved it without fighting any real wars. Venezuela off the table, Iran severely weakened and collapsing, Russia and China didn't come to their defense and basically abandoned them. Militarily, America proved it's still the most powerful on earth with no close competitors. Economically, Trump's imperialism is ensuring natural resource dominance for decades to come. He's securing America's global position in the 21st century. People don't appreciate the complicated geopolitics quite yet, but they will. I'm not going to comment on it personally. Just an interesting take that I saw that I wanted to share with you guys as we are seeing a lot of movement geopolitically. Again, my take always is going to be, I don't care what's going on in those other countries, because how does it impact the United States of America right now when we have multiple issues at hand and we have cities that are currently in a state of unrest? Another big move this week from the admin is that Trump stated that he's going to be signing an executive order before the midterm elections, eliminating mail-in ballots and voting machines. Now, he put this whole post up saying that he is going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots because they're highly inaccurate, expensive, controversial. The voting machines cost 10 times more than accurate and sophisticated watermark paper. And he goes on to say that obviously we've encountered massive voter fraud, and via this executive order, he wants to bring honesty to the 2026 midterms. Now, this is where my beef with the House and Senate comes in, because the president, if I understand this correctly, can absolutely sign this executive order to ban mail-in ballots. But what's going to make sure that the states listen to this? Because as far as I'm aware, executive orders can kind of be ignored by the states if states have their own individual laws. And what the House and Senate need to do, by the way, is codify these executive orders into law. So that way, if Trump gets out of office in another 3 years, this can't be quickly overturned. What are we doing to ensure basic voter ID laws? You have the SAVE Act that John Thune, our Senate Majority Leader, for some reason has just refused to put his focus into and has refused to try to ensure it gets passed. The SAVE Act, by the way, ensuring, and we talked about this last show, that you have to show your ID to vote in American elections, which is like at the very base level common sense, but people are fighting back against it. So I'm glad that Trump is putting this at the forefront and signing an executive order, but what happens if the states defy this and decide that they have their own state laws and they're going to continue to use mail-in ballots? I was researching this and it says, oh, well, the DOJ has to step in and enforce the law. Where has the DOJ been? What has the DOJ done over the last year? Now, all eyes are still on Minnesota, and earlier this week, Anna Paulina Luna stated that Tim Walz and Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, were knowingly complicit in a Somali fraud scheme. Therefore, she's referred them both to the DOJ for criminal charges. Incredible. But again, we need the DOJ to act. What else went on this week? Vice President J.D. Vance announced that a new Assistant Attorney General position whose entire job will be investigating fraud is in the works. Here's how it will work. The primary focus is going to start in Minnesota, and then it will expand nationwide. The position will have nationwide jurisdiction over the issue of fraud. And Senate Majority Leader John Thune promised swift confirmation for this official. If I read this correctly, I believe that Tim Burchett is going to be or was nominated to this position. This is great. But just like Doge, who uncovered that the Institute of Peace tried to delete a terabyte of financial data tied to lavish private jets, conference centers for parties, payments to the Taliban. They tried to delete the evidence of that. Luckily, the Doge team recovered it. They referred that to the DOJ for investigation. What happened with that? As far as I'm aware, nothing. So all of this is great. And I'm not trying to black pill and say everything's bad. Absolutely not. But we can investigate and we can refer for criminal indictment and criminal charges all of these people all day long. But if we do not have a DOJ willing to act, it means nothing. Now, Catherine Herridge actually sat down with House Oversight Committee member James Comer and talked about this concern, about how frustrated the average American has been at the lack of action from the DOJ. Here's an update on that.
This is a very popular chart on X. It says 0 arrests for some scandals that are very important to Republicans. Is that what accountability looks like?
Listen, that's the biggest complaint of every Republican on the House Oversight Committee is there haven't been enough arrests. Now, some of these some of those issues, I don't know, it's going to be hard to arrest people. With the Biden auto pen scandal, what we produced in our investigation is evidence that the pardons and executive orders that were signed with the auto pen in the last year of the Biden administration should be declared null and void. Now, President Trump tweeted after we issued our report that he was going to declare them null and void, but I don't believe the paperwork's ever been done, and you're still going to have to go to court for that. But our congressional investigation will serve as basis to uphold the declaration of those pardons and executive orders being declared null and void. Someone from the Department of Justice just has to take it to court.
Okay, so someone from the Justice Department has not picked up the ball yet.
It appears that way.
Okay, well, that must be frustrating.
Very frustrating.
So there you guys go. Apparently, the Department of Justice just hasn't filed the proper paperwork to get the ball rolling on these investigations, on these arrests, on the nullification of the auto pen pardons. And the sign that Catherine Herridge was holding up, it talked about how there have been 0 arrests for the Mar-a-Lago raid. I'm trying to read it here. It's kind of teeny tiny. Russian collusion hoax. January 6th, Mar-a-Lago raid, Biden auto pen, 2020 election, Epstein pedophile arrests, COVID, Benghazi, Doge findings, Ukraine impeachment hoax. So she's going over this list and asking, like, hey, where are the results? Where is the follow-up to this? Well, lies with the DOJ, and the DOJ is not doing anything right now. So it's incredible that we are uncovering all of this fraud from the East Coast to the West Coast. It is incredible that we are calling out the traitors to America. It is incredible that we are doing what we can to mass deport illegal immigrants. But why have none of the activist judges who have tried to stall these deportations been, impeached? What is it that the House can do to try to make sure that these people stop doing this, stop trying to stall the mass deportations that the American people voted for? What is the House and Senate doing? What is the DOJ doing? A lot of slow walking. And we are in 2026 now. I keep saying 2025 in my head. We're in 2026, my friends. So I hope we start seeing some movement moving forward. All right. Last 5 minutes of the show, let's focus in on a little bit of culture, because this was an interesting story, and I feel like this tweet doesn't do justice to how insane this is. The United States has increasingly issued work visas to OnlyFans models, based on level of audience reach per the Financial Times. Some U.S. immigration attorneys say influencers now make up more than half their clientele. And I read this and I was like, that's absolutely insane. There is no way that we're issuing work visas to OnlyFans models. And it actually is crazier than that, because these OnlyFans models are getting the O1B visa, which is typically reserved for extraordinary talent. Okay, so we're talking like you're a PhD, you're a movie star, you are the creme de la creme of society. That's the O1B visa. We are now issuing these to OnlyFans models who have a big enough social media influence? Question mark. A shocking number of U.S. visas reserved for artists of extraordinary ability are going to scantily clad OnlyFans creators and other social media influencers. It was once allowed or used to allow John Lennon to stay in the country, and it's now being used for likes of the Bop House stars who came to the U.S. to make adult content. I don't know what the Bop House is, but it sounds degenerate. Over half of clients seeking the coveted O1B visa in recent years are either performers on the pornography platform or some other kind of online influencer, top immigration lawyers told the Florida Phoenix. Okay, so a little bit of where we're at right now. I'm looking at this photo of one of the, and I don't think she got an O1B visa, but this is who we're issuing visas to, come become a citizen of the United States of America. And I guess this is how the admin is trying to solve the birthing crisis. No, I don't think so. I don't think OnlyFans models are, the opportune people to fix that problem. But there you guys go. That was a very interesting story that came across the timeline. Let's not forget as well, like I said earlier, it was the 1-year anniversary of January 6th. And I saw this video with the caption, January 6th was hilarious, and I'm tired of pretending it wasn't, with this clip. And reminder, this was January 6th, okay? You had AOC that was screaming and crying in her closet, even though nobody was around her, nobody was threatening her. And then you had all of these Democratic congressmen that had that bag over their head because they had to be evicted from the Senate building. It was just hilarious. That whole entire day was just ridiculous, quite frankly. This was January 6th, by the way.
Hey! Fucking hey, man. Glad to see you guys. You guys are fucking patriots. Look at this guy. He's got covered in blood. God bless you. Yes. You good, sir? Do you need medical attention?
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
I got shot in the face. Where are you? I got shot in the face with some kind of plastic bullet.
Any chance I could get you guys to leave the Senate wing?
We will. I've been making sure they ain't disrespecting the place.
Okay, just want to let you guys know this is like the sacredest place.
I know.
Okay, so yeah, anytime anybody on the left tries to tell you that January 6th was worse than 9/11 and Pearl Harbor combined, that was January 6th. Yeah, guys, can you leave? Oh, for sure. Yeah, we got you. Oh, yeah, I'm just bleeding from my face because I got shot by a rubber bullet. Hurts real bad. That was January 6th. And the election certification continued a couple hours later because that's how horrible and violent January 6th was. So freaking ridiculous. Let's end on this video. I was watching this earlier and it's captioned, "The Holy Spirit works pretty quick, doesn't it?" And this is a street preacher that's being harassed by somebody on the ground, perhaps a demon in human form. The street preacher is just vibing, trying to spread the word, and just watch this interaction.
Christ, I pray for him. I don't understand what he's going through right now.
Jesus Christ,
but I call his name.
From putting the back
I
of your
ask
head
Jesus
on
Christ
the back of the fucking deck, sir.
For him to relax. I rebuke all demons
Jesus
and
Christ
the devil.
is not going to help you.
I rebuke the devil.
If you're an audio listener, this guy goes, "Jesus Christ is not going to help you." And then this guy comes with a skateboard and just whams him in the face with the skateboard. And he's like, "I've been watching you harass this man and he's asked you to leave him alone. Leave him alone." I'm sorry, that clip was kind of hilarious. Obviously, I don't think that God is, having psychopathic people whapped live on the timeline, but I thought that was kind of funny and a more positive way to end our show, right? No matter what happens in modern day society, God has always got our back and everything happens for a reason. That's not going to stop me from continuing to pressure the Trump admin and more specifically the DOJ from acting. But there you guys go. That's what we're outraged about this week. Please remember as well that this show is on audio. If you guys like podcasts, go check out Outrage Culture with Savannah Hernandez. That's me on Apple Podcasts. Leave a 5-star review if you like the show. And you can also follow me on X. Also, big shout out to my Subscribe-Star subscribers for always supporting me. If you want to support my work, you can go check out that page. But most importantly, and the best way to help me out is by leaving me a 5-star review because I read every single one. My favorite thing to do after this show is just go scroll through all the hate comments. It's incredible. I'm just kidding. Actually, a lot of you guys have left really great reviews, so thank you for that. I hope you enjoyed the show today. I really enjoyed getting to sit here and explain to you and archive this moment in American history. So thank you for hanging out with me. And I will see you guys next week when we delve into all of the outrage that's going on in the United States of America. My name's Savannah. I'll see you then.